Good afternoon, everyone. We are live today. My name is Stephanie Bowe. I'm with the Louisiana State Bar Association, and welcome to our Law Talks virtual workshop series. Today's Law Talks is on disaster preparedness and common legal issues. And we have attorneys Haley Barnett and Stephen Reed presenting on these important topics. Before getting started, I do need to go over a few important reminders. First, this presentation is being live streamed. Questions will be taken at the end if time permits and answered live. If you are watching at a library, you may walk up to the computer to ask or to submit your question to library staff. If you are watching via Zoom, please submit your questions in the Q&A section. And if you are watching on Facebook, please submit your questions in the comments section. Please note that these comments are public and accessible by anyone during and after this presentation is over. Please note that the information provided in this presentation does not and is not intended to constitute legal advice. Instead, all information, content, and materials are for general informational purposes only. No viewer of this video should act or refrain from acting based on information provided in the presentation without first seeking legal advice from counsel in the relevant jurisdiction. If you need help finding legal help in Louisiana, you can go to the Louisiana Civil Legal Navigator, and the website is listed on this page. The LSBA's inclusion of a program is not deemed to be a statement or an endorsement of the views expressed therein by the LSBA or any member of the LSBA. Speakers on the LSBA programs were carefully selected for their knowledge, but neither the LSBA nor the speakers warrant that the presentation or materials were free of errors or will continue to be accurate. Statements in the presentations and their materials should be verified before relying on them. And opinions expressed are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect opinions of the LSBA, its members, or its sections or committees. Views expressed are those of the authors and contributors only. All right, and as I mentioned, our presenters today are first Haley Barnett. She's the Senior Attorney and Disaster Unit Manager at Acadiana Legal Service Corporation. And we have Stephen Reed, the Staff Attorney in the Litigation Unit at Southeast Louisiana Legal Services. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to them to start the presentation.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Haley Barnett. Like Stephanie said, I am the Disaster Unit Managing Attorney at Acadiana Legal Service Corporation. ALSC is a nonprofit law firm dedicated to providing hope, dignity, and justice to Louisiana's low-income residents by providing high-quality, effective, and free legal services throughout 42 parishes in North, Central, and Southwest Louisiana. Our disaster unit specifically provides advice, counsel, and legal representation to eligible survivors of Hurricanes Laura, Delta, Zeta, Ida, Winter Storm Uri of 2021, and the severe storms, tornadoes, and flooding of May 2021. We also provide legal presentations and outreach throughout the communities that we serve. And if you would like more information or to apply for our services, you can visit us online at www.la-law.org.
Hi, I'm Stephen Reed. I'm from Southeast Louisiana Legal Services, and we are also a nonprofit law firm. We offer and represent advocacy and legal education to low-income people. All of our services are free. SLS services include free legal advice and representation in a wide variety of civil matters. We do not handle any criminal issues or personal injury cases. The case areas that we help with are consumer, education, landlord-tenant, foreclosure, employment, family, public benefits, expungements, disaster, and many more. For more information and how to apply for our services, please visit our website. That's www.sls.org.
So I'm just going to start off with a primer about disaster legal services. So what are disaster legal services? Before and after a disaster strikes, civil legal aid is an essential need and can help stabilize disaster impacted families. both ALSC and SLLS, we are the two legal aid organizations that serve all of Louisiana. We're two organizations, but with one mission to serve as many low-income Louisianans as we can. A disaster law is sort of the kitchen sink of the legal world. To me, it's going to include many common civil legal issues, such as housing, wills and successions, FEMA, home repair, contractors, and insurance. This list is not exhaustive, nor is it exclusive. Again, pretty much any legal issue can be a disaster legal issue. And again, our two organizations, we want to help individuals and families prepare for and recover from major disasters, because especially for low income residents, disasters can make what's bad even worse. And sometimes all it takes for a family who's in a somewhat stable place is for a disaster to hit, and they can never truly recover and get back to that former place of stability that they were in pre-disaster. So why do disaster legal services matter? Again, disasters are becoming more frequent and more severe. There are civil legal needs that occur before and after the disaster event, and lawyers can assist and work with the community on disaster preparedness and recovery efforts to reduce the risks of those most vulnerable. So there's 3 stages of a disaster. I'm really going to the reason why before and after are starred is because that is what I'm going to emphasize the most in this presentation. So we think of the 3 stages. Before, we have your preparation, during your disaster safety and alerts while the disaster is ongoing, and after is the recovery phase of the disaster. So first, preparing for a disaster. Why should you prepare? It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it is a maxim that my grandfather told me over and over again. And I think it applies to life in general in the macro sense, but also in disaster preparedness. From an emergency standpoint, you can have safety and peace of mind. And from a legal standpoint, you can recover faster. You can handle legal issues more effectively. And sometimes you can avoid some legal issues altogether. So how can you prepare for a disaster? We're doing a lot of stuff in 3s today. So breaking down the phases of the 3 phases of the disaster even more. You want to build a kit, make a plan, and stay informed. So building a kit, building a disaster kit. So you have your emergency supplies. I know as Louisianans, we've been told that always have some sort of disaster kit, emergency supplies, but I cannot stress the importance of actually having them. Your disaster kit should include first aid supplies, ready to eat foods, and gallons of water for each member of your household, flashlights, a portable radio, and extra batteries. Portable device chargers are always great to have too. Family mementos, items for pets and young children, toiletries and personal care items, and a 7-day supply of your essential medications. Everyone's disaster needs, both legal and non-legal, are going to look different, but it's always better to have a plan than to not have one at all. So in your larger disaster kit, you have your legal documents and your important papers. You want to have your will, any powers of attorney, any custody orders, your car title, any identification documents, birth certificate, social security card, immigration paperwork, any home insurance and paperwork for your home title or deed, any property insurance, flood insurance, renter's insurance, any other maybe boat insurance or motorcycle insurance is also good too. Car insurance as well. You also want to have photographs and written descriptions of your items. I would advise once a year going through your home and sort of taking an inventory, at least getting the make and model number of things like TVs, electronics. That's going to be really helpful if you're dealing with insurance or FEMA and you're trying to get things replaced. Finally, your benefits related documents, so SNAP, Medicaid, unemployment benefits, and any Social Security or Social Security disability documents. So making a plan, you want to have a family disaster plan. This can look like knowing where you're going and or staying in the event of an evacuation. I know that not everybody can afford to evacuate, but it's important to have a shelter in place plan if you are not evacuating. This also includes checking in with your family members, neighbors, and friends and letting them know of your plan. You cannot forget about your pets. You also want to prepare your home by securing loose objects, reinforcing windows and doors, pruning large trees. You want to know where your emergency kit is, and you want to have everything that you need inside of it. And if you are evacuating, don't forget to bring it with you. If you need to, I think the best way to do this is to go to Home Depot or whatever your local hardware store is and get some of those big plastic tubs, and keep everything in those, and you can just grab them and go in the event of an evacuation. So legal considerations when making your plan. Have you reviewed your insurance policies, and do you know what steps you need to take to make a claim if necessary? Along with this, does your insurance policy match your risk? For example, do you live in a flood-prone area, but you don't have flood insurance? You know, you need to just, again, make sure that your documents are matching your risk. Have you considered having powers of attorney and or will if you don't already have one? Spoiler alert, if you don't have an estate plan, the state of Louisiana has one for you. And who would you rather be in control of your assets and your property following your passing? You can maximize control by having an estate plan. Have you gone online to call or pre-register for DSNAP? You can also pre-register for FEMA benefits, other disaster benefits. After the disaster, you can, there will be pre-registration periods while the money is making its way through the channels, and pre-registering for these benefits will allow you, once the money is available to the public, to just go ahead and immediately register. You can also sign up for electronically deposited benefits if you're receiving them. And if you are not renting, do you legally own your home, or do you need to finish a succession in order to transfer the title? Stay informed. During the storm, you want to tune into your radio for updates from local media and government. We recommend signing up for your area's emergency alert system for text message notifications. You can also download the FEMA and the American Red Cross apps on your phone to keep up to date on the latest disaster information. Social media is a really powerful tool that can be used for updated information, but use it with caution as there's a lot of misinformation out there. So be sure that you are getting your information from trusted, vetted sources. Immediately after the disaster, you want to continue to listen to new information from your trusted sources, as things can change very quickly. You want to be on the lookout for the opening of the government benefit programs and their applications like FEMA and DSNAP. Again, this is why pre-registration is important. You can also find resource fairs or disaster recovery centers to have the most up-to-date programs and or services that are going to be available to survivors. So disaster recovery. So we've talked about what to do before a disaster, during a disaster, and now we're going to talk about after the disaster. So what you need to know: legal issues are going to be extremely common after a natural disaster. Different legal issues are going to come along at different points post-disaster, and there are resources and people out there to help. And if you don't think that you have a legal issue after a disaster, you can ask yourself this question: does it seem fair? And if whatever it is does not seem like it's fair, then you might be dealing with a legal issue. So again, this list is not exhaustive, but these are just some common legal issues and a timeline. These often can overlap, and they can often go on for longer than the short term or shorter than the long term. But in the short term, this is 1 to 6 weeks after the disaster. You're going to be looking at interpreting insurance policies, applying for disaster benefits, protecting property from further damage, and rental and repair needs. Medium term, this is 1 to 6 months after the disaster. You're looking at FEMA denials and appeals, making home repairs, working with contractors and other repair services, replacing lost documents. That's why it's really key that you at least have a copy of all of the important legal emergency kit documents, so that in the event that one does get lost, you will have an easier time replacing it, avoiding eviction or foreclosure, and custody plan modification. Longer term, this is 6 months to years after the disaster, title clearing and successions, FEMA recoupment defense. This is where FEMA sends you a letter and says, hey, we overpaid you, we want our money back. Contractor fraud and scams, which Stephen is going to get into in a little bit, and getting and maintaining insurance. And again, these are just some of the issues that can be part and often are part of a survivor's post-disaster needs. So disaster program and benefits issues. What do I need to do to prove I own my home? Proving home ownership is going to be essential to receiving government benefits such as FEMA, and in the event of the storms that we've just all been through in the last 5 or so years, Restore Louisiana that's why proof of ownership is crucial for those programs. How can I appeal FEMA's decision to deny me assistance? Are there any tax implications of receiving FEMA or other disaster-related benefits? And recoupment, it's been years, but FEMA is now asking for the money that they gave me back. What am I supposed to do? So some housing and homeownership issues. My rental property is still livable, but it needs repairs. How do I make my landlord fix the place? And do I still have to pay the full amount of my rent? There is mold everywhere. Am I responsible for cleaning this up? And what about my health? The house I'm renting is totally destroyed. Do I still have to pay rent? And will I get my security deposit back? The disaster financially strained me and I can't keep up with my mortgage payments. What can I do? Some family law and education issues, custody and guardianship. What if I need to temporarily give someone else custody over my child? How do I modify existing custody orders to show new home and school locations, whether that's a temporary relocation due to the disaster or a permanent relocation due to the disaster? Divorce and domestic violence. The disaster has caused strain on my marriage. What can I do? What are my options? Even worse, the stress of the disaster has caused my spouse to abuse me. How can I best protect myself? And how can I enroll my child in a new school since we had to move? Some insurance and contract issues. Insurance, how do I make an insurance claim on my property post-disaster? Does the damage even qualify? What if the amount the insurance company gives me isn't enough to cover repairs or replacing my property? Contracting and contractor fraud. How do I make sure I protect myself in case this contractor does not follow through? A contractor has stolen my money and not performed the work. What can I do? And powers of attorney. I need help from someone I trust to make decisions on my behalf or sign things for me while I'm away. What are my options? Some other issues. I lost my job because of the storm. What can I do? How can I replace all the documents I lost in the storm because I forgot to grab my disaster kit? The disaster put a lot of financial strain on me and my family, and I cannot pay my debts. What are my options? So again, that's just those are some questions designed to get you thinking about disaster legal issues. And now I'm going to turn it over to Stephen to talk about construction and contractor law issues.
Hey everyone. So what we're gonna go over is kind of the basics to hopefully provide folks with some information to help avoid a lot of the issues that can come up with construction and contractor issues. I think a little, stating the big obvious things that I want to state out front about this presentation. Most of us in our lifetimes have not managed a construction project like those that come in after a storm. Many of us as homeowners go out, if we're lucky enough, especially in this day and age, to actually purchase a home, that's the extent of our knowledge. For many, many Louisianians, we're passing homes on and people are inheriting their homes. And with that doesn't come the knowledge to run a construction project or to know necessarily how good the work is as it's being done or really where to start. So hopefully what this presentation will do is go over some of the basic things that you can do to stay informed, to make sure that you protect yourself as best that you can, and what you can do if you do run into trouble to try and resolve those issues. I also want to state at the outset that if you're joining us on this webinar, there's a good chance that you have access to the internet and are comfortable with technology. We all have friends, family members, close ones to us that are not as good with technology in our community. And I would encourage you, for those people in your life where you can help with doing some of these background searches and some of the things we're going to get into, where internet access would obviously be helpful. I have also tried to, wherever possible, include phone numbers so that folks can, do it the old-fashioned way and just call somebody and talk out a problem. So quickly to go over what we're going to cover is how to go about selecting a contractor, what information you want to get from companies or the individuals working in your home, how to investigate contractors, how to review estimates, how to go over the contract itself and make sure the contract covers everything you need it to, how to go about paying your contractor, your rights and your responsibilities, and then how you can go about protecting yourself as best you can, and what to do if you do unfortunately get into that realm of having a dispute with the contractor. Okay, so for selecting a contractor, I can't stress this enough. And again, I want to acknowledge how difficult this can be. You really have to, as best as you can, get contracts. Sorry, this should be contracts from as many contractors and as many quotes as you can or estimates. You want to do that. And I know in the wake of a disaster where you're trying to remediate things as quickly as possible, you may feel a tremendous amount of pressure to select somebody fast, but that is often the way that problems emerge and usually the worst issues. So what you want to do, and it may seem, some of this stuff may seem obvious, but how you actually go about confirming is what the details are here. You want to get the full business name, the address, the phone number, the email. You want to get the contractor's licensing number and information, because sometimes the business name does not exactly match who they're doing business under with the Secretary of, well, with the state of Louisiana or with the contracting board. You want to get the company's bond and insurance information, and the insurance includes liability insurance and workman's comp insurance. And you also want to get the bonding information. And what the bond is basically is if something happens and the contractor's not going to finish the work, that's where the bond comes in. And that is to help you through completing. You also want to find out just general background information. How many years has the company been in business? And you definitely want to get references. You want to investigate the company. Again, here's a phone number, 800-256-1392. That's going to get you right to the business registration. You can also do a search. I have done both many times. And every time I've called any of these numbers that I'm going to provide, the folks working on the other end have been amazing. They help me investigate companies. They help me find out if a company had, or the owners of a company have had other companies, which can kind of really tell you a lot about whether, you should have concerns about the company that's coming to see you, because if you see every year there's a new company, there's lawsuits against that company, you probably want to avoid that company or those owners. So that's kind of everything. Let's see. You want to make sure they are actually a licensed contractor. In Louisiana, technically, I think it's $7,000 for work under that. You don't necessarily need to have a license. However, we always recommend having a licensed contractor, even for those small jobs, because somebody could be doing a very small job, and what if they break a water line? And who's going to pay for that? Does this company have all of their stuff in order, and also have trained professionals doing the work? I think that speaks for itself. And again, the 800 number, I have called that many times. I strongly recommend doing that. Probably more so even than going on the company and doing the website search, because the people at the licensing board are really excellent about what they do. Okay. This goes into the details about confirming if they have insurance. Um, I'm giving you the way to really check up on these companies. Sometimes this might seem like maybe over the top, but this is the way to really make sure you protect yourself. What you want to do is get the bond insurance company information. Then you want to do your own search online for these companies and make sure the information that you're getting matches. Did they give you the same phone number as the phone number online? If they're different, call that number online, because that should be their general business phone, and confirm that somebody isn't giving you fake information. If somebody's a liar, they're going to lie about everything. Oh, you need my insurance information right here. ABC Insurance 1234567 policy. And a good liar knows how to make a lie that sounds true. Maybe they find somebody else's policy and make a copy of it, and they start giving out their information. So it sounds real. It matches. So this is the way to really go about protecting yourself. And this kind of approach, we're going to do it on everything. So same for the insurance, same for the bond. Oh, and sorry, one last thing. Get the details. Get the dates of coverage and the amount. You really want to know if their policy is going to end a week after they start work for you. Okay. This is about following up with the references. And again, you just want to get as much information as you can from each company that you're thinking about working with. If you can, you want to reach out to the people who were the other customers, find out just general stuff like how long did it take? What was the quality of the work? What was the nature of the project done? If every reference that you get is for somebody, I did a new deck for this person, and I did a new deck for this person, and oh, you should see the the 2-story deck I did for them. And then you say, yeah, but you want to fix my garbage disposal. What does building decks have to do with my garbage disposal? So you want to make sure that the job and the references are in line. If you're asking somebody to paint your house, and you should give you 3 references for painting a house. I understand with general contractors, it might be a little different. You could see, let's say, an addition that they did for another house or something like that, but keep it in the realm. Make sure that they have the skill set to do the job that you want them to do. When possible, drive by and see the work. If you can't go, try to use a mapping app that has a street view. I'm not trying to endorse any company or app over another, but we all know the common players. Try to use their street views. See if you can eyeball the work if you can't get out there. I try to be as practical. In the wake of a storm, you could be in Texas trying to find a contractor to help you in Louisiana, and you might be doing this stuff remotely. God knows what can happen after our storms. So let's see. Again, more of the same. go look at the business reviews. I'm not endorsing any of these companies, Yelp, Google, Better Business Bureau. They do have websites, and there are a lot of people that will leave reviews about any and everything online, and you might as well take advantage of it. Could also be a way to meet another reference. I've already basically have said this warning at the bottom, but there are a lot of people who, in the wake of disasters, a lot of companies, businesses that see the opportunity for a great deal of work, and they may sign up for work and projects that they have no business for. A general contractor that's done only really small jobs may feel, oh, I'm going to take over doing this entire huge reconstruction, and I'll just subcontract out all the stuff I don't know how to do. And that might sound great, but in reality, they don't have the experience to even manage that project. So really be wary of people who have not done big construction projects. The big companies, they may be more expensive. You may be facing longer delays, but I rather wait and spend my money wisely than rush into a situation and then end up in a massive contractor dispute. Next slide, please. Okay. Okay, and this is just more about the estimate itself. You should absolutely not have to sign an agreement as you're getting an estimate. If that is a red flag. Nobody should need that. Again, we recommend getting multiple estimates. They should be in writing. They should state clearly what things are. If somebody said, like, if your estimate says kitchen, $10,000, living room, $5,000, we don't like that. That's not real to me. I want to see the cost of labor per hour. I want to see the cost of the material by the quantity. And I want to see the exact measurements. And again, you should not have to agree to anything. You should not have to pay for an estimate. I mean, there are companies that may charge you something for an estimate, and let me just qualify this because this is very unfair, but it may be something that you have to deal with and confront. Some contractors will charge something nominal like $100 to come out and look at your place because of how rural some locations are. It's not fair, it's not right, but that may be something you confront, and it may be something that you have to deal with. Where they will try to usually hook you is to say, oh, but that 100 will go towards the project, to kind of bait you into going with them. That should not be the reason that you select somebody, is because you have $100 in. But and I'm talking about when you have like $30, $40, $50,000 reconstruction projects ahead of you, which is what we commonly see. Again, going into the details, and you do not want to see the estimate that just says kitchen, $10,000. And here's why. You really want to make sure everything that you want is listed in there. The materials that you want, the square footage that you want, let's say carpeting versus tile, say how many cabinets you're expecting to be purchased and installed. All of those figures should be clear. Should also, as much as possible, try to get a start and an end date for the repairs. We give examples here about putting crown molding, for example. If don't just talk about putting the crown molding, have it in the details, every single thing, because that is how you're going to avoid the dispute. It's going to be, no, it's right there. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that. when you get your estimates, and this is another reason you should get multiple estimates, you should really be examining the price differences. There's always going to be price differences. But you want to find out where they are and why. Is somebody rounding when they're talking about material costs or labor costs? Is somebody not really taking real measurements on your home? All that's going to come back to haunt you if they're doing it, because that's how that is how the small time landscaper gets in over their head. They didn't do their figures right, and now it's costing them too much to do your job. That's usually how the problems really start. I think I hit everything on this slide. Again, just the numbers. Look at everything closely. Make sure it is. Again, as much as I would love this to be round numbers, there is no round numbers in the house. You know, not every room is 8 by 10 feet or 10 by 10 feet. You know, the moment you have a 9 by 6 room, it's out the window. So it just doesn't work like that. We all go shopping. Nothing is $1 anymore. The stone pavers are $1.79, and then there's tax. We all know this. There's no round numbers. So, you should do that. If you don't, another thing too that I would suggest, wherever possible, contract so that you are doing the shopping for the materials, and then you can space out things as going. We can, I think I hit everything on the slide. I think I'm bleeding into the next. More, again, the logistics, who's purchasing what, can you do it directly? How is the project going to be coordinated too? When are people going to be on your property? How are they going to notify you they're going to be on your property? Every home is different. Do I need to put in a passcode? Do I need to go behind a gate? Do I need directions to find it? Very important. Who is going to get the permits? Make all of this. And this is all speaking from issues that I've seen where, a contractor said they were going to get a permit and they didn't get a permit. And then the homeowner's learning about it after something's gone wrong. Next slide. These are just other kind of general things. How did you meet the contractor? You should only be meeting, it's almost like what you would say to children, like you should only be meeting contractors in certain contexts. If they're approaching you, that is a big red flag. You should also be very concerned if somebody doesn't want to put things in writing or says, I'm not really an email person. Big red flags. The round numbers, trying to force you to sign things, requiring upfront payments or payments for estimates. And the other big thing to worry about is subcontractors. Wherever possible, try to contract directly with subcontractors. You need to find out if your contractor is going to use subcontractors. You need to find out who they are, what they're going to do. And then, honestly, you also need to repeat everything you just did with the contractor with the subcontractor. You have to make sure this person's also reputable. You don't want the plumber coming in to be bad. You could have a great general contractor, but if the subcontractor plumber comes in and a pipe breaks, that could destroy everything that the good contractor did too. And then you're in the pointing fingers realm. So these are all the kind of issues that can come up. And, I don't want to make it scary, but it is kind of scary how these things can turn out. Again, this is just general tips. Take your time, review everything slowly. You may be worried that it's hard to find a contractor, but you still need to be careful. That is how people that take advantage of people, that's the opening, essentially. Okay, the contract. Once you've selected your contractor, you have to formalize your estimate into a contract. In some cases, the contract will become effective once you sign the estimate. So they'll give you an estimate at the bottom. It'll be signed here. If you agree to that, that's very common. It's one of the reasons I stress not to sign anything until you are absolutely certain this is your person. based on the nature of your construction project, you may have different contracts with different contractors. I strongly suggest creating a series of smaller contracts with your contractor. They can give you a very big contract to fix everything. So we can, sorry, I got a message. It's just using the smaller contracts as a way of controlling the bleeding. If a dispute erupts and you need to get rid of your contractor, you do not want your contractor suing you on this incredibly big contract for breach of contract versus a very small contract where it might not be worth it to them. So, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but the way of keeping control of things, and if you don't like somebody's work, at that point you can just end it. If you start with, let's say, I'm just picking something. Let's say they need to gut your house first before they can start. If you don't like the way they're going about gutting your house, you're probably not going to like the way they do a lot of the other work. So if you just start with a contract to gut your house, you could stop there at the end of that and say, okay, thank you. I think I'm going to get somebody else to do the rest of the work. And then you're not under contract for the whole thing. And you don't have to be worrying about breaching a contract. You've just contracted for that one job. And you can take it like that and explain to your contractor that's how you want to do it. Again, get it in writing. And this, again, people, contractors try to move fast. Make sure you and the contractor sign and date the contract. Keep a clear signed copy. Take a picture with your phone right then and there. Whatever has to be done, make sure you have a copy. Again, this is just more of beating the drum on what I said. Make sure the contract states clearly all of these things: the price, exactly what will be done, who pays for the material, who pays the labor, who pays the subcontractor, who will do the work, including any of the subcontractors, the amount of liability insurance coverage the contractor has, time frame for the work, or states at least when it will start and finish, who is responsible for getting permits, and always get a copy of the permits. Okay. Deadlines. Very hard to enforce deadlines because of many reasons, but generally, just know the short is it's very hard to enforce deadlines against the contractor. There's so many factors that give everybody reason for delay, whether it's material shortages, price increases, all kinds of reasons, delays from permitting offices, etc. What you can try to do is try to put penalties in the contract itself. Most contractors are going to recoil and fight you on that one, but you can try. If you are trying to finish for a certain date, you can try and put that in the contract. If there's a section, especially for other notes, you can say, I really need this to be done for XYZ. I'm relying on you to have it so that I can move in. My housing assistance will stop, and that will be something I incur, for example. Like, you just want to try and put in the contract if you really need a deadline, which, again, kind of stating the obvious, everybody wants to get back into their home as soon as possible. And we all don't have the resources, money, places to stay endlessly in the wake of a disaster where our home is being fixed. I think I've said this like 50 times about the permits. We can move on. Okay, paying the contractor. Again, I said this at the beginning. I'm going to stress it. Do not pay in advance. Not pay in advance. Never pay for most of the job or the whole job ahead of time. I'm sorry to beat this so hard, but I've just seen this go so wrong for so many people who have overpaid and just lost everything. Um, be wary of any contractor who wants a full payment or half payment in advance. Reputable contractor will not require more than 10 to 25% of the total price for a down payment. And that is another reason to keep the jobs small. I rather pay 10% on a $5,000 job than a $50,000 job. 500 versus 5 grand leaving my hands is much different feeling. And as you build that relationship with that contractor, you'll know what to expect and how to operate with them. Again, purchase materials directly from suppliers as needed for the scheduled work. You also don't want to be in a situation where you have materials just sitting in your yard for a very long time. You might not be living in that home. You might not have the ability to protect those items. And, there are lots of, frankly, vulture, again, this is my opinion, vultures after a disaster that take advantage of people. Never pay with cash. Insist the payments be made to the company, not to the individual. That's another common issue. Get official receipts on company documents for every payment made. One option is to use a credit card. Just keep in mind, yes, there's added protections, but there's also added interest if you cannot pay that in full every month. Yeah. Okay, your rights and responsibilities. This is very important. If you have homeowners insurance, if you have a homeowners insurance policy that you're drawing on to make these repairs, you need to inquire about what happens if somebody gets hurt on the job at your house. If there's falls, injuries, whatever, you want to see if your insurance is going to kick in and help you at all with that. You should also check with your city officials to see what permits your contractors will need. Do your own homework. Make sure your permits are filed. Even if it's their responsibility, make sure everything is correct. It's your home at the end of the day. That can be just an unintentional mistake if they got the wrong kind of permit or something like that. Protecting yourself. Again, documenting everything. Try to take pictures of your damaged home before the work starts. Take pictures during. Take pictures of the people you're working with, the contractors, the vehicles even they're using, the license plate. Make sure you, of course, back those up in a secure location. Let's see. Keep detailed notes if there are conversations. You really shouldn't have conversations about anything. Even text. Text is better than nothing. Yeah, just make sure everything's in an email document. That's all. Just more of the same. Get everything immediately. Do not let them walk away without giving you a document or say, I'll give it to you later. Saying, I really need that now. I mean, of course, like if he says I have to write up the estimate, but do not sign something and let them walk away with it. Or let them get by with saying, oh yeah, I got the paperwork. It's in my truck. Well, why aren't you giving me a copy of it? Let's go to your truck. I'll take pictures with my phone. Material invoices, same. Copies of insurance and bond policies. This is a big one. Get proof of payment of your subcontractors. In Louisiana, anybody that works on your home has a right to place a lien on their home if they don't get paid. And what we have also seen is the, thing where the subcontractor doesn't get paid. They're rightfully upset. And so they're suing everybody. They're suing the homeowner. They're suing the general contractor. They want their money. And so that's why it's very important that you as a homeowner are making sure that everybody that's walking in your home is getting paid. Next slide. Okay, if you are in the land of trouble, I'll be very honest with you. You really want to avoid this land. If you get here, everything I've been telling you up until this point is to prepare for that. Keep all of your receipts, contracts, estimates, work orders, and so on for the work in question. Take photos of how the contractor left the work. Keep any photos from before they started work. File a police report immediately. Keep a copy of it. File a complaint with the Louisiana State Licensing Board for Contractor and also for the Attorney General. Just a note I want to explain about a licensing board complaint. It's one of the best things you can do against a reputable contractor. I have assisted clients with this and learned about how the process worked. It was not how I expected. You submit copies of your documents and accounting, all the paperwork. There's a good chance that the licensing board is not going to contact you or notify you of anything that's happening then. What does happen is there will be a hearing with the contracting board and the contractor. If they rule in your favor, they can award you up to 10% of the contract amount, and they will collect that. And if you are lucky, one day you will get some random money from the Attorney General and not really understand why. It is a long process, and you may or may not end up with anything. I think the only real leverage that you're ever going to have is against a licensed contractor with a big business that plans on continuing to work in Louisiana. They are the only people I think that are going to try to make that debt right. So I would keep that in mind. You can also, with the Attorney General complaint, um, you know, it's not going to necessarily put money back in your pocket, and especially not put money back in your pocket quickly. With all three of these options, you're relying on other agencies, and then the one option that's not on here obviously would be if you're going into court suing a contractor over a dispute or potentially over fraud. And not everything is fraud. And a lot of the ways to avoid the disputes and issues are to have a clear contract with everything addressed. That's why we don't like the $10,000 kitchen example I've been using.
Well, that's our that's it. We have resources that we want to cover, but I know Haley has to leave at 1. So I'm going to go ahead and open it up to questions right now, and then I'll go back and cover some of those additional resources. We did get one. I'm going to read it. I'm not entirely sure if it's fully on point, but maybe you all can help. And it is specific, and we do try to, not get into answering, legal advice type of thing. But I'm going to read it and see if you all have any suggestions for this person. So the question submitted was, my home was a foreclosure home from about 5 years ago and might fall within these laws. I purchased from a public auction, auction.com. I would like to know if I am in need of following your regulations related to disaster relief, inherited or grandfathered into a legal remedy situation. I might need to follow different community standards. They live in Black River Lakefront. I'm not sure where that is. And I don't know without other details if y'all can answer or provide any insight to this question.
I don't mind grabbing that one. In short, yes. Some of these things will apply.
Yes.
Well, for example, if you acquired your home through a foreclosure, and I'm not speaking to you to your situation specifically, I'm just giving a hypothetical. If someone received FEMA assistance in the past and they are required to maintain flood insurance on the property, that's going to stay with the property. And regardless of how you got your home ownership, the second one, which Haley kind of covered at length, is if you yourself seek to access any benefits, say like FEMA or something along that nature, you're gonna need to have your ownership documents in order to show that you are the owner. When you acquire a property through foreclosure, there can be lingering issues always with title and things like that, and you may need to resolve some of those issues. So in short, yes, some of this will apply to you even if you acquire your home through a foreclosure.
And then a follow-up question from the same person is, are there remedies for more than just hurricanes, like a victim or person injured on your land, not by you?
In short, yes. Again, not knowing any other details, Louisiana law does provide remedies for someone who is injured on your land, but not by you. Your homeowner's insurance policy may provide a remedy for this, but again, without knowing any other sort of details, that's going to be my answer. Stephen, if you have anything to add.
Um, let's see. No, I don't know because I don't know the context of because more remedies, that to me kind of says like, can you get assistance from FEMA for something other than hurricanes? I don't really understand the context. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. So another question is, where can you go to review limits not being a contractor? For example, like self-repair.
I want to say that's the revised statute. I'd have to if you want to just find out on your own, the easiest thing is just Google Louisiana. I want to say it's $7,000. Limit like it'll say residential
Versus
home.
commercial.
Yeah, residential versus. I don't think there's a commercial limit. But residential work and Google. I'm almost certain it's a Louisiana revised statute. I don't think it's in the code. It's got to be in the revised statute.
Yeah, it's in the revised statute. I'm not sure which one off the top of my head.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
apologize for that, but it's in there. That's what I would research.
And then another question, how do you research police jury auctions to review the debts and contractual agreements to extend or end?
Police jury auctions. You sheriff auctions, I'm guessing. How do you research sheriff auctions to
Well,
review?
some like I'm in Lake Charles, and for example, the parish is we have a Calcasieu Parish police jury. So it's just a different sort of governing system, I suppose.
Nice. Well, I guess if you're going to start with who's ever foreclosed on the property and seeing what the mortgage holder had, the next place you're going to look at is the mortgage and conveyance office to see if there's any first or second, third mortgages on the property, reverse mortgages, if there's any liens on the property, if there's any with Liz pendants on the property. Any claim that's going to be in the mortgage and conveyance office is the short. If you got it at that foreclosure auction that you were referring to.
Great. I don't see any other questions at this time. So Haley, I know you have to hop off.
I
I'll
do,
go ahead and
yes.
just go over, thank you so much, the
Thank you.
additional resources we have. So if you're having any common legal disaster issues, you can go use this QR code here. You can just scan this with your smartphone. This will lead you to the Louisiana Law Help website that goes into more details on the various issues that were discussed today. Then we also have the FEMA appeals generator. So should you apply for FEMA assistance after a disaster and you are denied assistance, you can use this. It will provide more information about your rights to a FEMA appeal and will even help show you how to draft that appeal. The next is the Good Repair app. This is for renters that need landlords to make repairs. It will help you create a letter to make your request to your landlord, and it also will provide the steps required to make sure that you stay in compliance with the law. So that's a great resource as well. And then I just briefly wanted to go over Acadiana Legal Service Corporation and SLS, Southeast Louisiana Legal Services, their service areas. So as you can see here, the left side, which is the north and western parts of the state, are Acadiana Legal Service Corporations. That's their service area. So if you have any disaster-related legal issues in any of the parishes that are listed, you can contact Acadiana Legal Service Corporation. Their phone number, Rachel just put in the chat, but it is 1-866-275-2572. So you can contact them again if you're having any disaster-related legal issues in any of these parishes. And then Southeast Louisiana Legal Services, they're the other nonprofit law firm in the state, as Stephen described earlier. They cover the southeastern portion of the state. So if you have any disaster-related legal issues and you're in one of these parishes listed, you can contact SLS, and their number is 1-844-244-7871. And again, Rachel put that in the chat. Our last resource is the Legal Referral Navigator. So if you are trying to figure out what your legal issue is and where you should go for help, you can use the Legal Referral Navigator, and it will help, kind of guide you through that process, and then give you basically a lot of the resources we talked today, but they might be more customized to your issue or your area. And we did questions. For additional assistance, you can go to the Louisiana State Bar Association's Find Legal Help page. This is a list of the resources you can use to find additional assistance. We do highlight the Civil Legal Navigator that we talked about already. It's a great diagnostic tool to help kind of diagnose your legal issue and provide that customized legal information and referrals that I talked about. And the other main thing that we want to promote is the Louisiana Free Legal Answers. So if you have a question that wasn't answered today, or if you're watching this later and you have a legal question, you can go on to Louisiana Free Legal Answers. You can log in whenever, wherever you like, and you can ask your civil legal question and potentially have an attorney answer it all through the website. There are some certain income requirements that you have to meet in order to be eligible, but you can use that to ask your legal questions, whether it's disaster related or any other legal issue, civil legal issue. And then last, so that concludes our law talks for today. Our next law talks will be on July 10th at 5:30 p.m. and it will be on landlord and tenant issues. You can visit us on Facebook to get more information, or you can go to our website, www.louisianalawyersanlibraries.org. And that's it. Thank you so much, Stephen, for presenting today. You and Haley did a great job, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everyone. Hope you have a great afternoon.